Hey, we're live on the internet, people. So welcome along to Jailhouse Vegans number 7. And the subtitle of this one is The End of an Era, Ronnie. It's the last
really,
one.
because I think this is going to be the last one. And
last one.
Unless you and I get together and go on another crime spree, Roger, and break into places.
You can do that one on your own, Ronnie. Don't worry about it.
I thought you'd come and help me because I need help now. Now I've got my Zimmer frame. I need a little bit of help to break in. I thought
right, yeah.
Lend me a bit of a hand. You know.
Is it a motorised one, is it, Ronnie? Is it a motorised one?
No, I can't afford a motorised one. You've got to push me. You've got to push me along and we'll do the raid and hopefully welcome back
to Declan Bowens from the Back into Daylight Animal Sanctuary. Those of you who've seen the advert will know that we kind of wanted to go for different sanctuaries each time, but there's a special reason for bringing Declan back because of a rescue about 3 weeks ago now, Declan, was it?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Right?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago of 200 hens. We're going to show you a nice film that shows you the lot. And essentially, Declan's summer holiday, as such, he doesn't really get much of a holiday anyway, but it was completely ruined because, Declan, you'd already laid down the concrete base for a new shed, but you had to bring all your plans forward about 2.5 months, right?
Yeah, to build this new shed for the hens because there was too many of them in one shed, 100, 200 of them, and we said we'd split them in half. So in the real hot weather, 30 degrees, which is rare for Ireland here, we had to build this shed. And thanks to Roger for coming down and John and a few other people happens with the shed. We got it finished, you know.
We'll have to ask people in the comment, though. I think it might be a rights violation to split hens in half. But actually, I tell you one thing that was an issue for us was the fact that how do you ensure that you're not separating friends from friends? And Declan, you made the point that that's kind of already been done when we did the initial rescue because there was 1,000 birds and we were allowed to take 200. And so the chances are we probably separated some friends anyway because of that, right? So it's a difficult situation, you know. So
it is,
I don't know. Do you see individuals kind of calling to each other between the two compounds, anything like that?
Yeah, when they settle down, Roger, after a few weeks, you see gangs of them, you know, getting together, sleeping together, and all that type of thing, and you know, walking around in the grass and everything together. So they do make their own pals, you know, like all animals, you know. Yeah, you know.
And thanks for tuning in, everybody. Ronnie, do you want to say hello to the people in the chat?
I'll say hello to everyone. I mean, I'm not able to see the chat actually. I've got a funny thing with my computer. If I try to see the chat, it kind of it does something weird. So you'll have to tell me.
Okay, well, I'll do it then. I'll do it then. So we've got Veg Met Cod Bod, Wendy's favorite name from the Animal Rights Show. So hi.
Hi there.
Hello to you, sir. I don't know if that's in the right gender. Michael, we've got the vegan songstress. The vegan songstress in 2 locations, on the screen and also just over there.
Hey.
We've got Deb and Amber.
Hi, Deb.
And Linda and Laura. So hi everyone.
Hi, Linda and Laura. Hi everyone, and hello to all the people that is watching the recording of this as well.
Yeah, you're saying hello to people in the future. That's interesting.
Hello to people in
time travel.
I can even time travel now. It's marvelous, isn't it? Marvelous. My superpowers. Along with
hey Jennifer.
All my other powers.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like a translation. So Jennifer said, "Hey Deb, I'm not going to do that all evening. So don't anybody else."
Shall we? We better get on with. That.
Yeah, get on with it, Ronnie. What's the matter
entertaining with you? People. Roger's got another funny story, but he's not going to tell it first because it's so good that we want to leave everyone in suspense for a while. And I'm going to start off, and I'll bring him in with this funny story.
I describe it as bittersweet, actually. My story.
Well, yeah, see, that's a little taster, isn't it? A taster,
It is.
for his story. So
I'm such a tease, aren't I? I'm such a tease.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, these stories have been about the time that Roger and I spent at Majesty's pleasure, if you could call it that, in the 1970s, 80s, and in my case, it was into the 90s as well. And with me, I served 3 prison sentences, and we're now on my final sentence.
You couldn't get enough of it, could you, Ronnie?
Couldn't get enough of it. No, wonderful. free board, lodging, free food. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, but I mean, you weren't satisfied with going in multiple times, but you had to go in the 70s, or the 80s, and the 90s. I mean,
I wanted to cover the 3. Well, they kept me into the 90s. I didn't really want to stay to the 90s, so they kept me into the 90s.
Oh, right. So you didn't volunteer that bit, no? You didn't volunteer.
I didn't volunteer that. No. They kept me as long as they could. I don't know how they put up with it. Anyway, I'm now in the final prison. I served my 3rd sentence in, which was a prison called Channing's Wood, down in Devon, and that was a semi-open prison. You've got kind of cells and that in there, but there's grounds, and you've got quite a bit of freedom to walk in the grounds. So it's not like one of the horrible prisons that you often see in the television programs like Porridge. And you see, I was known as the general, because in my court case that they gave everyone ranks. I think Roger were you area commander, Roger? Was that your rank? Is that the rank they?
No, you keep saying that. It was lieutenant or lieutenant, depending on
whether were you another lieutenant, were you? I had several.
Brendan was a lieutenant, and Vivian was a lieutenant.
Lieutenant, and I was the general, because they wanted to give me the biggest.
You always wanted to promote me to something that I wasn't.
I always thought I sounds better, doesn't it? Area commander.
I mean, you'd have got general assistant. I think I was general assistant.
You'd have got a longer sentence for area commander, wouldn't you, than what you did? Anyway, so I'm in Channing's Wood, and the corridor where my cell was, there was a guy on that corridor who was a captain. He'd been a captain in the Navy, and he'd become addicted to he became addicted to alcohol, sadly, and kind of went into a life of crime, and he was in prison. But he was very proud of having been a captain, and he was telling one, I was a captain, spoke like that. I was a captain in the Navy, yes, I was a captain. I had men under me. I mean, I don't quite know in what sense that was, but he had men under him. And of course, the other prisoner says, well, you're not the highest ranking officer on this landing. And he'd go, yes, I am. I'm a captain. Yes, they go, no, you're not. There's a general on this landing, a general. Yeah. He'd go, no, there isn't. Where's the general? And they'd point to me. And he'd go, he's not a general. He's just a cabin boy. And the thing was, he absolutely loved the Queen. He was all, I love the Queen, Her Majesty, and all that. And I said, well, I'm in touch with the Queen. She's a very good friend of mine. No, she isn't. No, you've nothing to do. Nothing to do with you. And what I did was I got a friend of mine to forge a letter from the Queen to, forge like Buckingham Palace head,
That's probably a crime, Ronnie. That's probably not legal.
Yeah, just add it to all the others, take it into consideration. And and wrote this letter, dear Ronnie, I'm very sad to hear you're in prison, and I hope that you'll soon get out and be able to come to one of my garden parties again, where I'll make up for the time, blah, blah, blah. Signed Her Majesty. And I showed it to him. I said, there you go, yeah. But he went mad. He started ranting and raving. But he was a kleptomaniac. And it's like, I think he was in prison for nicking stuff, but he carried on nicking stuff in prison. And he'd go he nicked a load of pencils from the education department, and he just stole stuff. He stole scissors off the prison officer's desk in the office. There's an office on the landing where the prison officer's at. Stole his scissors, and they discovered that he'd hoarded a load of stones. He'd hoarded all these stones, and he had a hit list of prison officers. that he had an attack list. He was going to launch an attack. They had to keep him locked in the cell all the time, which normally don't happen. You know, you've got a lot of freedom, your cell's open, but within they just
as soon as he could steal a catapult from somebody.
Yeah. He had a load of stones. He had a hit list. He made a hit list of prison officers, and he didn't know their names, so he had all descriptions. One with bald head and moustache, and another one.
A hit list.
Hit list, yeah.
You mean just the prison guard uniform wasn't enough? You actually had to describe them as well.
Yeah, no, he didn't know their names. You see, so the ones that he was going to attack on the list. He was going to attack them in an order, I think, and he didn't know their names, so he had descriptions of them written on this. I don't think the descriptions were very complimentary. So anyway, they just locked him in the cell, and then they eventually moved him to another prison. But really, he should have been in some kind of psychiatric place, to be quite honest. You know, he wasn't right. So that was the captain, and we had another guy on the in the corridor. It was a gangster. He's a gangman bloke. And I was walking down the corridor one day, and he come running up to me. He said, Ronnie, he said, you like animals? Don't you like animals? I said, well, I care about animals, He said, please help me. I can't go in my cell. I said, why? He said, there's a wasp in my cell, a wasp. I can't go in my cell. So anyway, I said, don't worry, leave it to me, And I went in the cell. I just opened his window, and I just went like that, and I, shooed the wasp out the window, and I shut the window. I said, "Oh, it's all right. I've shooed the wasp. I've sorted it out." And he said to me, "God, blimey!" He said, "You've got some bottle. He was saying, "This is gang, something gang guy, And
what did he normally do on the out? Did he put a contract out on a wasp or something? I mean, how did he do?
He might have done, yeah. He might, yeah. And the wasp, it was a hit wasp, like been sent to do him.
just send the big bee in. Hey, mate, get out there.
I was going to carry out a sting. Anyway, that's terrible. Do you want to tell your story now, Roger? Because so people can recover from that.
Deb says you're a wasp whisperer. You're a wasp whisperer.
Well, I'm not frightened of wasps and things. I know some people are, but you just got to be calm. Be calm with them, really. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, but anyway. I was thinking about if there's something I haven't said in this 7-part thing, and I even played back some of them just to see if I'd done this already, and I don't think I have. But my story starts in Wales via Ireland almost, and then ends in Manchester, because what happened was I said in the previous show that I was disappeared to a farm when I went on the run, and my time there was only limited, and when it came to an end, we came up with this idea of going to Ireland. And so I knew a couple of writers, and they managed to get me a dodgy passport. And so I was armed with this dodgy passport, and we went to Holyhead. And Holyhead now probably people have probably seen Holyhead port. It's quite extensive now. It used to be very kind of small, and right at the end of like a pier kind of thing. So we ended up there, and there was me, my partner at the time, and somebody from Sea Shepherd who was doing the driving. So we ended up there, and we got stopped and searched, and the customs people started asking all kinds of questions, and I think they'd called for the police. And so they were doing this thing where they'd opened the boot and then they opened the bonnet of the car. So both ends of the car were up, kind of thing. And I was thinking, this is not going to end well for me. So I kind of walked around to the front of the car and just walked away from them, keeping the car in line so they didn't see me. And then there was a little wall, and I kind of dropped down onto a beach. And so then I walked along this beach, and I just kind of hid until it was nighttime. And then I made a reverse charge call to somebody that I knew. It was the time before mobile phones, so you had to do a reverse charge call, because I hadn't had a penny on me, because all my money was in the car. So that must have been confiscated and everything. And so somebody came out in the middle of the night to pick me up. And then we weren't sure what to do then in terms of whether there was an alert out or anything like that. And there's only two, Holyhead is on the Isle of Anglesey, so there's only two bridges. And so we thought, well, it's going to be a bit dodgy if we try to cross the bridge now in the middle of the night kind of thing. So we stowed up down this little lane, and we tried then to the next morning kind of just join all the ferry traffic again from, subsequent ferry from Ireland through to Wales. And so we kind of joined a queue of traffic, and we made it over. And so what we're going to do then, all the plans to go to Ireland were, kind of up in smoke. I was going to go as a woofer. Do you know what a woofer is? It's called, I wrote it down this morning, worldwide.
Dog, isn't it?
Yeah, dog. It's called Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, and so that's called woofing, right? Woofing, yeah. And if you do woofing, you're known as a woofer. And so that was going to be my cover story, right? But I never really got a chance to kind of use it. So they thought, well, we've blown the chance of going to Ireland. What do we do now? So I ended up going to Manchester because at the time there was a really good squat community. It used to be that you'd go to a place called Hume, and there was all these crescents which are now demolished. But you'd go in there, you'd break into an empty flat, and then the next morning you'd go down to the council and tell them that that's what you'd done, and they would then give you the keys. And then you could get electricity and all that kind of sorted out. Yes. And I think somebody from Liverpool came over and lived with me because I obviously was kind of persona non grata, as they say. And so we were there for a while before I then went back to Wales, and that's when I got caught. But it was really weird because I'm in Ireland now, but I would have been in Ireland years and years earlier. We hadn't fully worked out what we were going to do once I was in Ireland. We didn't get the far, but I suppose I was going to try to establish another identity or something. So I just thought of that story. It's not particularly funny, but it was kind of weird.
It's quite sort of James Bond-esque, though, isn't it? How you kind of escape from the car and
I suppose so. You see, the thing is, you couldn't do it in modern day Holyhead. It wouldn't work because it's all in this big high security compound and everything. Whereas this one, I just kind of meandered over to this little wall, and then there's a drop down to a beach. And once you're over that wall, they couldn't see you at all.
Did they get your passport? Was that in the car? Did they find out?
Yeah, they got everything. And what happened was the other people in the car, the Sea Shepherd person and my partner at the time, they had to go. One of the things that we didn't think through was that they were suspicious about why was a Liverpool car coming to Holyhead to go to Ireland when they could have just gone from Liverpool straight over to, and so that's what kind of created them to be a bit suspicious. So they came up with this story that they were having an affair because the Sea Shepherd guy was actually married. So they so that's how they got out of it. And they said that I was just a hitchhiker that they'd picked up, and so they didn't know me. And so that's how it all transpired. And so presumably somewhere in Holyhead, somebody's got a nice pair of wellies that I took. And I had about 60 quid in money, which was quite a lot of money at the time. So there you go.
Yes.
The name is Yates, Roger Yates, yes.
Yeah, I know. You could do a film just
shaken and very stirred, I suppose, really.
Yeah, but you finally made it to Ireland anyway, Roger. So that's
and funny enough, legally this time, yeah. So
yeah. Anyway, I suppose I better carry on with my supposedly funny stories. This is another guy, once again, in the same corridor as opposite me. There was this Muslim guy, like he's a really strict Muslim guy. His name was Yunus, and he was in for smuggling drugs. He'd smuggled like a load of heroin from Pakistan, where he was from. He smuggled a load of heroin. He got done. I think he got about 11 years. He was opposite me in the thing. And he was like really, he was really like religious. And what I used to do is I used to get the Daily Mirror. I didn't get it myself, but I'd borrow it off someone and I'd look through it. And there'd be adverts in there for like stockings and suspenders and things, you see. And I'd go in his cell and I'd go, Eunice, have a look at this, you see. And he'd look at the picture of the suspenders and he'd have to pray. He'd have to pray because he'd seen like the dirty picture. And he was all going like, Allah, 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 praying up to Allah, you see. And I used to do it all the time. Every time I said something like that, I'd go in there, Eunice, have a look at this. And then he'd I used to call it make him pray. I thought that'd be good for a game show, wouldn't it? You could have like 3 people, say.
So you effectively tortured this poor guy.
I tortured him. Yeah, no wonder they do the fatwa. I mean, I could have had a fatwa against me, couldn't I? Really, for doing that.
there's probably several, mainly from vegans. But it sounds a bit like the actor thing where they're not allowed to say Macbeth. They've got to say the Scottish play, and if they say Macbeth, they've got to do some kind of weird dance and all that. It sounds a bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. But you see, because I wonder about the fatwa. You know, like if you only annoy them a little bit, is that a thinwa? Is that a thinwa? Do they? Do they push you around like
it's a plump war. So I think Linda has hit the nail on the head. I think everybody can get behind this statement.
You're devilish. I'm devilish. But anyway,
you're a devil. You're a complete devil.
It'd make a good game show. You could have maybe 3 people, and you get some religious fanatic, and you'd have like the pray cage. There'd been a thing called the pray cage, and then these 3 people would have to say what is the dirtiest story I can think of, and see who could make him pray the longest, and they were the winner. I kind of thought of that. I should have told you.
You're making the assumption that this poor guy was a fanatic as well. He
was. I mean, it seems strange that it's all right to smuggle like loads of heroin, to like kill people, but you can't look at suspenders. What's that all about? It's that weird. Anyway, a guy.
What would happen if you tried to smuggle cocaine in suspenders?
Oh, well, I mean,
then you have a real mold.
Then you're really in trouble. Then you're in trouble with the, all of them as well. But there was because I said to him, look, I said, don't you have any of these suspenders over in Pakistan? He says, no, we don't have those. No, it's not allowed and all that. I said, great. I said, because there'll be no competition. I said, I'll come over with a load of them, start a business over there selling them. I said, but I want you to give me a reference, say, Mr. Lee's a respectable businessman selling quality products. And he said, I will tell them to shoot you straight away. But there was a guy in there. There was a guy in there called Mother, you see, and he was a gay guy. And
Mother, you mean like the man
his name was
the man from Uncle?
He called himself Mother, and he was like, I mean, he used to make a bit of money there, like, sold his bum in there, and made a bit of money and stuff. But, well, not money, tobacco. And anyway, one day he backed into this Eunice, like rubbed himself, and he said, "Come on, Eunice, I know you want it," and all that. And the Eunice, he went mad. He said, I kill you, and he went berserk, But funny enough, this Eunice guy he escaped. It must have been because of me. He got a load of his mates to cut a hole in the prison fence, and one day he escaped and got away from me. So that was so that was the end of that. And then another guy. There was
the thing is, Ronnie, at the end of this show, I'm going to do the same.
Get away from me. Yeah, terrible jokes, so you escape and go somewhere and lie in a darkened room and that for ages. There was a Scottish guy as well on the same corridor. Funny enough, it was called Jock. All Scottish blokes in prison are called Jock. And what he was in for, his girlfriend split up with him, so he burnt her house down. See, and he was like really bad-tempered, type of guy.
You don't say.
And the prison officers used to always wind him up and make him go mad, because it was a bit of sport, for him. And what happened was in prison, he didn't have any visitors, you see. And in prison, if you don't have any visitors, there's these prison visitors that come to see you, you see. And this woman used to come to see him. Now, this jock he was like in his early 20s, and there was this woman prison visitor come to see him, and she was in her late 40s, you see. And anyway, they kind of started like, obviously took a fancy to each other, and he started like snogging her on the visit and that. And they said, "Oh, you can't, she's not allowed to come. She'll have to come to see you as an ordinary visitor, because obviously this has gone beyond the bounds of what they're supposed to do with a prison visitor, you see." So she still used to visit him. And anyway, but of course, because she was a lot older than him, of course, the prison officers went to town on him, and they were going, "Oh, hello, Jock. I hear you're a necrophiliac now," and things like that, and he'd go mad. He'd go absolutely berserk. And one day, and I'd say to him, "Listen, Jock," I said, "listen, when they say anything like that, when they try to wind you up, just laugh, because they're only doing it because you go mad. They're doing it to make you go berserk. And because that's what they enjoy. So what you want to do is just laugh, just make a joke of it, and then they won't do it anymore." But he couldn't. He was just so bad-tempered. And one day she sent a pair of her knickers in to him. I don't know where she worn. They were, clean or what. She sent these, and the prison officers were going around. "Hey, look what Jock's been sent," and they were waving around these pretty red knickers that she sent in, and oh, that's I got a text message there. Tell me to shut up. And he went mad again over that, But another story related to that prison.
Before you go to that, Ronnie, let's do Amber's one. How do we donate?
Oh,
please?
yes.
So you see the address here. So backintodaylight.com. And then I think there's a fairly prominent donate button that you can see. It's on the home page, is it, Declan?
Yeah, on the top road. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't think you'd hide a donate button
No.
on the website.
Yeah. I think on the mobile website, I think you might have to press menu before you get to donate. I've got a feeling that's what it's like on the mobile one.
Oh, if you're on the phone, you mean? Yeah.
But
okay.
If you're on the phone or a tablet or something, you've got to press menu first, and then you get to donate and you can give money. But another funny story about knickers is there was a prison laundry at Channings Wood, and as well as the laundry for their own prison, that they did the laundry for a women's prison that was fairly nearby, you see. So, of course, they, had all the women's clothes to wash. And they did a roaring trade. The blokes in the laundry did a roaring trade with selling this soiled knickers to prisoners. They used to buy them. They used to buy the dirty knickers for tobacco. And a bloke said to me, he said, "I'm going to get myself a pair of knickers." I said, "Oh, no, surely not. What are you talking about?" He said, "No, I'm going to buy some knickers and that." I said, "You're nuts, Anyway, he went off, saw a bloke from the line. Roger will have to divert your attention, yeah. I'm not quite sure how, unless he's wearing some. I don't know with Roger, it's quite possible. This is the last knicker story, I promised you to be
quite. Where did that come from?
And anyway, he come back, this bloke, and he said, "I'm going to get myself a nice pair." And he come back, they were the biggest pair of knickers you could possibly imagine. Well, I said, "Bloody hell," I said, "They're a great big pair. Yeah, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, what you get my want to get my money's worth." But
maybe you wanted a tent.
He wanted a tent, yeah. But in that prison as well, because in the previous episode, I was talking about that we were allowed to make phone calls from that prison. It was the first time I'd ever been allowed to make phone calls, and it was a new thing in prison. They brought this thing in. Prisoners allowed to make phone calls. You had a special card, prison phone card, that you used. You had to book a slot and everything on the phone, allowed 10 minutes a night. And what I did, because people on the outside had no idea that prisoners were allowed to make phone calls, because it was a new thing, you see. So what I did was, I phoned up one of my mates from the Unsabs, who lived down in Kent, Dave. And I said, hello, Dave. And he said, oh, hello, Ronnie. Have they let you out? Have they let you out already? I said, no, Dave. I said, I've gone over the wall. I've escaped. I've gone over the wall. I said, but listen, I'm down by yours. I'm in that, because I knew where he lived and what he looked like. I said, I'm in that bush that's around the corner from your house. I said, I'm hiding in that bush. I said, can you come and get me and hide me in the attic? And he said, oh yeah, all right, I'm coming now. I'll have to go. And then there was this woman I knew, and she was in Unsabs as well. I phoned her up. She said, oh, Ronnie, have they let you out? I said, well, kind of. I said, well, this was the time of the Iraq war, when they invaded Kuwait and all that one. And I said, no. I said, they have let us out. I said, I'm in Kuwait. She said, what are you doing in Kuwait? I said, well, they said we could be let out if we went to the Kuwait to help the army in Kuwait. I said, I'm in the trench in Kuwait. I said, hang on a minute, there's a bomb coming over. I've got to get down. Oh, Ronnie, you were killed. You should have stayed in prison.
At the end of this series, people must be thinking, why did anybody ever work with Ronnie Lee? I mean,
well, yeah, I think that myself, to be quite honest. And but anyway, look, we're
it's time. It's time to feature what we're here for, and so which is so this should distract you from knickers at least for a while.
Yeah.
So okay, so this is the film that I managed to put together. So we had a few stills and we had a few films, as you'll see. We weren't really able to take much footage at the farm. They were quite guarded, weren't they, Declan, in terms of letting us see inside.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
So you managed to get a little look though, didn't you, and stuff?
Yeah, you remarked on that the hens, a lot of feathers missing on their backs, and when I looked into the shed, I could see the water pipes. Like, they don't give them bowls of water or liquid water. It's I shouldn't say liquid water, but it's pipes. It comes in little nipples that they drink out of, a little drop at a time. So I just seen that the pipes were very low, and we reckon that's why they're missing a lot of feathers on their backs, because they were rubbing against these pipes,
And are they growing back now then, Declan, are they, yeah?
Oh, well, yeah, you can see the shoots, the little shoots are starting to grow, but I'd say in about a month or 2 months to have loads of feathers there,
Okay, so I'll get this going, and but I'm going to stop a couple of times, and you stop me if you need to, Declan. So that's Neville, the VIP van, and so this is one of the things that I wanted to comment about. We commented about this also during the advert. Now, what these are? This is the only film that I managed to, or the only picture I managed to take at the actual farm. When the farmers weren't looking really, but these are brand new transportation cages, and so the deal was that there was 1,000 individuals in the farm, and we were told, basically, in fact, Declan, you were told at 9:15 the night before, essentially, if you could beat the slaughter truck, you can have 200. That's what they said, right?
Yeah. And I had a fairly sleepless night that night. Of course, phoning around people that asked them would they take some of them, but when I was talking to you, Roger, did you know anyone as well? And it turned out we only got homes for 15 of them off people. Like, one other sanctuary took 15 of them, So I thought we might get homes for some of them, but when we were off them, like, what could you do? And only sort of take them more, if you knew they were going to be killed the next day, so it was a hard decision to make.
you were very lucky because you had an empty shed and you also had a base for another shed, and so therefore you were able to make that decision. So you were lucky in that sense. The puzzle that we were left with regard to these transportation cages was why were they brand new and why were they there? Because we couldn't really work out why they were there. But the saddest thing from my point of view is the fact that knowing that, just a few minutes or at least a couple of hours after we drove away, those things would have been filled up with the others who were then going to the slaughterhouse, which Irish farmers call slaughterhouse as the factory to kind of hide what it really is, And so these were on the way to the factory. So that was a very sad thing to see, really, brand new slaughter cages. You kind of think, these businesses are kind of, they're running out of steam, but I mean, they're still buying new stuff. So there you go.
Yeah.
So this is the first shot of the hens. That one again is Neville. And then I think this one is the sanctuary van, which is larger than Neville. This is in Neville again. I wanted to pause like I did during the advert for this, just to explain. We had two vans which were full, and it was imperative that we emptied the large one first, which is the sanctuary van. So this one is the VIP van, Vegan Information Project van, and these ones are actually in the shelving part of the van, but there was a big cage in front of this, and so this film is shot by the vegan songstress. And I just want to explain that the reason that she was filming rather than taking them out is that she couldn't take them out. I just wanted to make that clear. It wasn't possible for her to take them out because there was a massive cage which took about 3 people to move in front of this cage, so you couldn't move it. That's what I wanted to explain on that one. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, they're pretty hot at this stage, so we had to get them out quick, and we managed to do that. So this is the straight out of the van, straight into the first paddock, Declan.
Yeah, that's right, Roger. There they are going into it, more things after. Like, it was a very warm day, and we were worried maybe we'd lose some of them on the way back, but we got them all back safe, and
Yeah, there were no fatalities on the way back. Well, that was really good.
We were thinking there might be because we were packing them in fairly tight because we didn't know what 200 hens would be like, in the two vans, we wanted to make sure we got them all, so we were packing them fairly tight together, so we had plenty of room in the wind-up, hadn't we, Roger? With tons of room for them.
Yeah. So this is me smashing eggs for the hens. They were laying remarkable amounts, and so we were able to feed them back to them. It's not a very good film, this, because moving through a big crowd of hens like this is quite difficult to do. So I was trying to concentrate on where I was walking, smashing eggs at the same time and filming at the same time. So I didn't do it particularly well. Yeah.
There's so many of them, like, isn't it? And they come to you, they come over to you and gang around you every time you walk in. It's hard to walk through them, isn't it? And then you would pull their legs out if you stand on their feet and they try to run off. So.
Yeah. Now, this bit I think is interesting because it's very raucous when they're first going into the paddock, and also when they're being fed and everything, it's fairly raucous. Then when they settle down, it's really quite sweet because you could sit with them. This is after one of our days' work, and we were sat with them, and they were picking at our boots. So at this stage, they're just talking to us at this stage. It's very quiet and very peaceful. Exactly. And they jump. I mean, they jump up on your knee quite a lot, don't they, Declan?
Yeah, and they're very inquisitive all the time. Everything you do, they're watching, and they look up to, they twist their head and look up into your face, don't they? You see them looking up at you straight in the face as well, But they're beautiful creatures, the hens, And they're always making little noises and sounds, and chatting to each other as well.
Right, so this is me explaining. This is the new compound with the beginnings of. So that's in the distances where they all are, and then half of them are going to come to this one.
This new shed, Roddy, yeah.
Yeah.
That's some old geezer screwing in timber, isn't it?
And the same old geezer doing the iron. Iron.
And there's Sean screwing in a few screws. He came down to help us with Roger one, 2 of the days. So doing great work. And there's some old geezer feeding the hens.
So this is the day that half of them get moved. So
yeah.
So Declan, we all want to know where you got your designer wellies from. Go on.
Yeah, and then 30 degrees of heat. This is 6 o'clock in the morning, but it was well in the 20s at that time, you know. But it's just you know, I'd feed them all and give them all water in the morning, so you do get wet, you know, from the taps running and everything, and carrying buckets. You know, that's the reason.
Now this is a bit that everybody's going to love. This. Watch this, folks.
Yeah. 200 hens coming out of the shed. We had to get up at 6 in the morning because the weather was so warm, you know, that they wouldn't suffocate in the shed because they were all crammed into that shed.
So this is now transferring half of them, or a little bit more than half in the end, wasn't it, to the second paddock, Declan?
Yeah. They're gradually coming out, and we you know, we fence across the driveway there to make them go the right way. So eventually they start moving up along. You know, they're watching and looking out for everything on the way, of course. You know, plenty of cockerels in the background, crowing away there too. But there they are in the new paddock there now, in the new shed.
Yeah, and the thing to notice here, of course, is how much space they've got now, which is because the population is split between the two. Funny though, you know, you mentioned the cockerels, and when we were first emptying the first van, all these chickens were coming out of these vans, like, you know, 10s at a time. So all the cockerels came running over and started cock-a-doodle doing, and we realised that first of all they were pretty pleased, going, you know, what's all this? But at the same time, for the hens, that would have been the first time they heard a cock crow. Because, you know, obviously all the cocks in the, because these are laying hens, all the cocks would have been killed. So they weren't used to male birds. So they kind of had to get used to that as well. Yeah.
And now there's cockerels around them everywhere now at the moment, you know. So like in different paddocks there. So at least they've company in the distance to you know, but you couldn't put cockerels in with them because they'd be, you know, they'd give them a lot of hassle to the hens, you know.
Right. So this individual, this picture was taken on the very first day because there was 1 or 2 who looked like they were from battery units. Now, I think we haven't made clear that the unit that we took the hens from was officially called a free range unit. Yeah. But the hens were debeaked, and also some of them were in not great condition, and also essentially, rather than being in lots and lots of different small cages, they were in one big cage, really, weren't they, Declan?
They were, Roger. Yeah, it's incredible, like, you know. Yeah. But to think that these water pipes were, you know, maybe only 9 or 10 inches off the ground, and the shed itself is 25 foot high, maybe, you know, to think that that's what they were crammed into, just, you know, less than a foot.
Do you think that's a design fault then, that because I mean they were new to it? The reason they had new transportation cages is because this was the first time they'd sent birds.
I wouldn't say it's a design fault, Roger, because you know, like all the farmers, including the chicken farmers, have in Ireland. There's a group called Teagasc. And they, you know, there's loads of government employees and experts there, and they're researching all this stuff, sheds and equipment and everything all the time to, you know, utilize as much space and everything for the animals so that they make more profit, you know. So I wouldn't say it's a design fault. It's deliberate the way it's done, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like there's thousands of people working all the time in all the farming industries, you know, government officials. You know, this one.
Now we're at some of the downside of this, in the sense that here we've got so you've had some health problems and a lot of veterinary bills and medicine issues because, I mean, essentially, you've got these hens at the time when the industry regards them as very close to being spent. So that means that their bodies are breaking down, and so they're still laying eggs. It's just that now they're having some medical problems for doing what they've been forced to do, essentially.
Yeah, and this one prolapse means that her inside, when she lays an egg, her inside comes out with the egg, and like we have to give them loads of antibiotics and painkillers to relax them, so their inside will gradually go back in.
Is there an operation that can be done, and then you have to put the bit that's come out back in again? Is that right, Declan?
No, but some of them might come out too far, and you would have to push it back in. Once you give them loads of medicine, but some of them just goes back in themselves. And more of them lay an egg, and loads of blood comes out with the egg, and the blood will be all on the bodies, like that one there. And then some of the other hens start going for these hens, drinking up the blood and that, and injure them more. So we have to keep an eye on them to pick out the ones that are like this and save them.
What was a mystery for me in the first couple of days was the fact that they were laying so many. You're thinking, blimey, the farm could have kept them for another while, but then this is the result. So they obviously kind of send them to slaughter just at the time when they think they're all going to start having problems. So I mean, this issue of spent hen is really real. What they mean by that is we've worn them out. We've used them so intensively that we've worn out their biological system, and now they're about to kind of collapse. I mean, that's essentially what's gone on really here.
And they just might be missing.
Because they would have been selectively bred to do that, to be able to produce loads of hens in a short period of time and then just be finished. I mean, that's that's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just Ronnie. If they lay, when they're 6 months a year old, they lay an egg every day. Whereas now, when they're just over 12 months or 14 months, they might miss it one day a week, laying an egg. But that's a lot of profit for the farmer if he's feeding them, and they're losing a bit of money that way. That's why they send them off, because they're not getting maximum production out of them,
And that's, I think, what people don't realise about free range. People think, oh, I'm all right, I eat free range.
Oh no, eggs. The hens.
But you've still got the same problem with the male chicks being killed.
Oh yeah,
at the beginning, and then at the end they're still killed at 18 months or whatever because their egg laying goes down. So, it's only marginally better, if at all, than intensive systems.
And all of the both lots of them get all the same problems from laying the eggs. They'll get prolapses and tears inside in the body and everything from laying the eggs. So it's horrendous to see.
So this is the second to last scene. But going back to what you said, Ronnie, about they're almost like programmed to kind of last a certain degree, it goes back to an ALF rescued pig, which they ironically named Rasha, and Rasha got ill, and they called an agricultural vet out, and the vet said that they couldn't do anything for the pig, and they said, "Well, you're an agricultural vet," and he said, "Yeah, but I've never seen a pig this old before." Because they're used to them, 6 months, 8 months, they're at the factory again. So, the entire system, from the vets to the farm to the transportation, it's maximum exploitation, and then chop. They're gone. It's kind of ruthless, really. So this is John again, and this is one individual going to a hospital area, and you've got about 5 of those now, is it, Declan?
Yeah, 5 different areas for them, different degrees of sickness, and some of them recovered, and some of them, I got 2 more like that hen we showed earlier on, with the blood on our, got 2 more today, and then the day before yesterday we got 6 like that, so they're all at different stages, so we have to kind of keep them apart because they'll go for each other with the blood on them, and I even have 2 in the house here as well. So between all, we have 8 areas for them at the moment, so.
So we've got one more picture to show, and then that will be it then. So this is if I get my technology right, here we go.
Yeah.
So this is one of the eggs that you're referring to, Declan, sadly. So
with loads of blood on it, from tearing their insides and all. It's incredible. Like, the torture that go through, but each of these hens will have lots of problems for the rest of their life, so we'll be constantly giving them medicines and painkillers and stuff, like
which is why we need people to donate, because I think some people may think, oh, those hens are rescued, they're all okay now, everything's fine, and that's kind of far from the case, because you're still having to spend a lot of money providing accommodation, a lot of money providing veterinary care, for instance, and then there's the food, and there's all this that it doesn't just end when they come to the sanctuary, does it?
No, it's only starting, Ronnie, now, with all that.
I think I'm supposed to get rid of that. I think one saving grace is that this is obviously very early days in that sense, and so there will be these kind of problems at the start. And obviously, the hens have had the ordeal of kind of being taken from what they knew to a new place and all that kind of stuff. Then they got split as well. So they will eventually settle down. And so it's not going to be like this emergency situation all the time, will it? So
no, I think it'll be, Roger. Probably will. It mightn't be quite as bad, but I know from having them, I had 85 rescue ones before, but. It's ongoing, if it's not the eggs, problems from laying the eggs, they'll build up fluid in their bodies then as well, and their kidneys and their liver will start to go, and they build up a lot of fluid in their bodies. There's loads of other problems they can get, as well as, problems with their urinary tract and all that, so it's amazing all the things that could crop up with them,
That's brilliant, Bernie. Thanks, Bernie, for sending the donation. Because another thing people kind of, I suppose, need to realise is this is half again the number of animals. Isn't it, Declan? You've kind of increased the number of animals at the sanctuary by another 50% by taking these hens. So it's it's a big strain on resources.
Oh, it is a big strain, and an awful lot more work. Like we probably didn't think it through 100% the amount of extra work we'd have, especially when they're sick as well. It's not too bad feeding them and watering them and stuff like that, but when they're sick, you have to go around a couple of times a day to give them tablets and everything. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of extra work, but sure.
What about this question, Declan? I think the answer to this is going to be no, I think, but I didn't see inside, but you did. So electric rail feeder in the shed, I think they probably fed them a lot when they... See, it was free range to the extent that they let them out. We don't know for how long, and we don't know how many times.
No, we didn't see much right away. All I know was the pipes for the water that were very low, and it was dark in there, like they kept them fairly dark. And then when they were catching them, trying to put them out, they even darkened the shed more to calm them down a bit, before.
That's right, yeah.
So we didn't see much in the shed. Kind of, we got no opportunity to look in. I thought maybe they'd want us to go in and catch them, or help them catch them, but found out they opened a few of the flaps and hunted some of them out.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird way of doing it, really, wasn't it? But it was done in the end. So
you think they'd be calmer inside in the darkness, kind of catching them, but we got them anyway in the end, which I suppose the main thing, isn't it?
It is. So, folks, please be generous to make lots of donations back into daylight for the hens. But whether you're watching this live or whether you watch the recording, please do that. It's really important because these hens can still, live for quite a number of years. Because I think the natural lifespan of a hen is something like 8 years, isn't it? And yet they're all killed at about 18 months, aren't they, by the egg industry? But they can live to be 8 years old. So you could have a lot of these hens for a few more years, and of course they're going to have some of them are going to have ongoing health problems.
Ronnie?
It may be longer, but it's at least 8. Yeah.
But they'll have loads of problems, you know.
Yeah.
I must have forgot from the torture I had the last time with the ones I had before, you know. But what can you do when it just happened? We weren't expecting to do this, you know. Just a woman arrived with her son at 9:30, 9:15 in the evening, and you know, it was like an ultimatum: take them or they'll be killed tomorrow. You know, the kind of way, you know. So that's the way I was thinking about it, you know. So you know, whenever it could come from totally out of the blue, you know. So it's just
you're right, Ronnie. I just had a quick look on the internet, and they said between 5 and 10 years. So they said the average.
Because of course they're not. I mean, hens aren't even native to this part of the world. I think they come from the Far East, don't they?
Guinea
fowls, the ancestors are hens, and so once again, it's same as sheep. You're not native to this country, and so they have lots of problems on pasture. It's the same with all these things.
You love it, don't you, when people go, "Oh, the vegan diet, that's not natural," and you think, I
know. I know, along with all the other shit they say. Anyway, I better start talking some shit as well now, and carry on.
Come on. Who wants more shit from Ronnie, people? Anybody else more shit from Ronnie? You're not allowed to mention knickers or anything.
No, knickers is finished now. I don't want people getting too excited. But we'll talk. Great rescue. Was it a great rescue, Declan? He did the right thing, but of course now it's up to other people to help with, carrying on, looking after the hens and making sure they're okay.
You like this one, Ronnie? You love that.
Yeah, those emojis. Yeah.
Right over your street.
Yeah. Anyway, So there were a lot of funny incidents that I was involved in, kind of outside of prison and leading up to prison. And before my third prison sentence, one of the places I lived in was kind of Palmer's Green in North London, and our nearest underground station was one called Bounds Green. It was called, and I lived in a flat. I had a room in a flat, a friend's flat, and I was in a punk band at the time, where we were all Hunt Sabs and ALF people in this punk band called Total Attack. And the guy who was the lead guitarist, a guy called Rick, who was actually a very talented musician, he actually, stayed. He was staying for a while at the flat, and we used to go, catch the underground into London quite often, and we used to go for rehearsals for the band and other things. And at the time, there's a campaign in relation to the underground because they put the fares up quite considerably, and it meant that poorer people, obviously it was more difficult for them to travel on the underground. So there was a campaign called Fares Fair, and it was aimed at getting them to, reduce the fares again. And what it was they produced all these IOUs, so that, like, instead of giving a ticket when you came to the end of your journey, you gave an IOU, and for your ticket. And apparently that was totally legal. You put your address on the IOU, and then they had to try and get the money off you, and it made it difficult for them. It was just a way of putting pressure on them to reduce the fares. So, like, Rick and I were doing this, except the trouble is we just used to put false address on it, like, so I couldn't get the money off us anyway. But that's what we used to do, and they hated it. Hated it. And what you'd do, you'd get the big oi, you'd walk through the ticket barrier, because at the time there was ticket collectors, not like now, it's all automated. At the time there was ticket collectors, and we'd hand in the IOU to ticket collector, and there's this rule that when you hear the big oi, you never look back, because inevitably you do oi like that, and you never look back, you carry on walking, like, don't look back, you see. So one day we'd come back from somewhere, we'd give the thing in, walking along, oi, like that, carry on walking. There was this big line of ticket inspectors, like, blocking the entrance, saying, right, you're in trouble now. You've been doing this, like, all the time, right? You're in trouble. We're going to get the police. you see. And they said, they locked us in this room. They said, right, you've been locked in here till the police come. We've got you now. We've had enough of you too. We've been watching you and all that. Right, locked us in this room. Well, the trouble was there was a window in this room, a little window, really little window, right? And I was only little and, thin, not thinner than I am now. And
was only little.
Yeah. Was only, well, little in, but I was little in, I'm little in height, but I'm not so little in width. Do you know what I mean? I was smaller in width then, you see. And Rick was very thin as well. And what we managed to do, we got this window open, we got out the window. We got out the window and lowered ourselves down the underground station, like we buggered off. Like, so when they were going, oh, we got you now, the police are on their way, we finally got you and all that. I thought it was great when the police come and open the door, there didn't no bugger in there. But at the time, a little bit later, I had the BUAV, British Union for the Abolition of Vivisection. They had an office in Charing Cross Road. And they let me use a desk in their office to do like the ALF press office, and so I kind of go there every day. And I got contacted by a stockbroker, an American stockbroker. So he phoned up and he said, "Is that the ALF press office?" And I said,
"How did it go, Ronnie? How did it go?"
Don't make me do an American. Probably Debbie's probably laughing that he's doing a shit accent. And I said, I'd like to give you some money, And I thought,
yeehaw!
Yeehaw! Yeah. I don't know what part of America that's from, but generic.
That's Hollywood, I think.
Is it Hollywood? Yeah, he's a Hollywood stockbroker. And anyway, I thought, it was like thousands of pounds, but he wasn't a very rich stockbroker. He had this little business, but he had a bit of money. And every so often he used to give me £100, Well, that's great, because £100 was more in those days than it is now. And anyway, he said, I want to take you out for dinner, you see. So I went, and we went to this place in London. I don't know if it's still there. It's called Cranks. It was a very well-known vegetarian cafe place in London. And but you get lots of ordinary people there, not just vegetarians. It's very popular. It's all non-vegetarians or business people there. And we sat at this table.
Assuming that vegetarians are not ordinary people. Go on. Yeah, carry on.
Well, they're not, are they? Well, it's only vegans that are ordinary people. Anyone else is like weird, aren't they? So, and he said in a very loud voice, he said, Ronnie, how do I join the ALF? Like that. I thought, oh God, I said, there's everyone looking. I said, shh. He said, no, I want to join the ALF. I want to burn down a laboratory. And it's like, really, everyone's looking. Oh my God. And anyway, I went to see him. He said, I've got something here for the activists. And he opened the drawer in his desk in this is stockbroker's place. He said, here. He gave me a load of cigars, cigars that are in the tube and all that, really expensive cigars. When the activists come back from a raid, I want you to give them a cigar. And he gave me these cigars. I had these cigars. So I took the cigars back. And then, anyway, but women obviously complained because, like, loads of the activists were women, probably more women than men. They're going, what are you doing? We don't want cigars. I mean, a lot of blokes want cigars, to be quite honest. So I went to see him. I said, listen, a bit of a problem with these cigars. But women don't really smoke cigars. And it's, don't worry, Ronnie. And he got his bottle of vodka. He said, here, I got a bottle of vodka here. When women do a raid, give them some vodka. He said, these cigars, I had a bottle of vodka. So anyway, I had him in my desk in the office in the BUAV. And I was living with a woman at the time called Kim. And at the end of the day at the BUAV, she came up the BUAV office with a friend of hers, you see. They came in the office. Oh, hello, Ronnie. We come to, we popped in to see you. I said, well, I had a meeting. I had some animal rights meeting, you see. And I said, well, look, I can't stay. I've got to go to this animal rights meeting. I said, it's only going to be an hour or so. Like, you stay here in the office and I'll go to this meeting, you see. So I went to this meeting and come back. Come back in the office, they're all staggering around. I said, what's the matter? They're like, we found vodka. They drank this vodka. I said to him, do you realise how many ALF raids you've got to do now that you've drank that? They drank the activist vodka. I didn't smoke the cigars, thankfully. I left them. So I go and get more. I explain it to him, like saying, Albert, his name. I said, Albert, I've got very embarrassing. I need another bottle of vodka.
well, he did seem to have a particularly typical kind of stereotypical gendered idea about things. But I want to know, I mean, what did he expect to do? Some kind of balaclavaed person comes in with a chip, kind of one raid written on it.
Yeah, I've done a raid.
A cigar,
yeah, kind of thing. He thought that's how it worked. I'd be sat there at the table getting the cigar out, Well done. Take your hand, here's your cigar, But there was another funny incident at the BAV. There was a chap worked there that I was good friends with. He was employed by them and stuff, and he used to mess about and take the mickey, and which is why I got on with him really. But anyway, I had enough of him. See, so one day they said, "We're so sorry. We're going to have to let you go. We're going to have to give you the sack." See, and this was in the morning, and then. Because normally at lunchtime, me and him, we'd go out, we'd go to this pub and we'd have beans and chips for lunch. I started getting really fat because every day we were having beans and chips. And Stitches just sitting there. Well, yeah, everyone gets ill in their own particular way when they listen to me. I keep it decent. Oh, that's a bit of an ask, isn't it? Keep it decent. This isn't really decent now. Not really. Well, none of it is really. It wouldn't be funny if it was decent, would it really? Anyway, so I said, we're going for one last beans and chips. He said, no, Ronnie. So I'm going to buy some presents. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, I'm going to give a present to the office manager and the deputy office manager, a live cheerio present. I said, well, I just give you the sack. I said, give you the sack, what are you doing? He said, oh, no hard feelings and all that. So I thought that's a bit weird. Anyway, he come back, he's got these things wrapped up. And afterwards, he says to the deputy bloke, he says, well, no hard feelings, give you a present. Like, oh, thank you very much. I wasn't expecting that. He opens the present. There's a packet of the Jay's toilet paper in there and a plastic dog shit. So that was his present. And then the office manager, there was this woman was the office manager, and he said, give her a present. He said, and she said, oh, what's this? It's very kind of you. He said, it's something, for you to help you when you're working late at night, you see. And she opened it up as a thermos flask. He said, oh, that's really kind of your thermos flask. He said, oh, blimey, is there something in it? He said, oh, yeah, there's something in it. He said, you've even put something in it. That's wonderful. She unscrewed it, a big cock on a spring shot out. Shot out the top. And then they went mad. They said, leave now, get out of the office now, all that. But this dog poo, so I kept the dog poo because he threw it, the bloke. That's this, I thought I'll have that, so I kept it. And there's a bloke who used to come in the office and bring his dog in. And it's a big Labrador called Sam. And the receptionist in the BAV, she was a bit kind of larded out, yeah, a bit like that, you see. And anyway, what I did one day, I put this dog shit, I put the plastic dog shit on the floor, in front of a desk, see. And then I heard, oh, Ronnie, come quickly, And I went there, and she said, oh, Ronnie, she said, oh, Sam, she thought the dog had done it. She said, Sam, the dog. Oh, Sam's done something on the floor in front of my desk. She said, you couldn't clean it up. She said, I can't stand it. You couldn't clean it up, could you? I said, no problem at all. No problem at all. I bent down and I picked up this poo. She was sick on her desk. She was sick. So that was, no wonder they got rid of us in the end, the BAV, no wonder. But
there must have been a million reasons why. Do you remember, hey Ronnie, do you remember the story about Janet and Gandhi?
That was Janet. Janet, you see, she was like a kind of, she had very well spoken, Janet. And Janet and Gandhi, what happened? She had a little dog, a little brown dog called Gandhi, and she used to call the dog Gandhi. Oh, Gandhi, see. And anyway, this work bloke poop whisperer. Yeah. Yeah, you have to, when you get to my age, you have to be a poop whisperer. Anyway, this like workman bloke, rough bloke, come in the office to do something, see. And she said, oh, Gandhi, and Gandhi was like sniffing this bloke, said, oh, Gandhi, come away, like that. And this bloke said, would you call that dog Gandhi for? See? And I said to the bloke, oh, it's because she's small and brown. And she said, no, that's not the reason. She's named after the great Mahatma Gandhi, liberator of India. No. And he said, I don't mind them as long as they're in your own country. I thought you shouldn't have said it. I knew that the bloke was like that, basically. But anyway, but we moved to the BWA moved to another place in Islington. It was like a big office place, and they had some spare offices. And they obviously still put up with me for a while. They allowed me to have like a press office, this little office in this like sort of kind of. It was just across from where their offices was, and like we there was like people used to come and see me in there, and they kind of and a guy came to see me one day, and he said, I've got a big action planned, Ronnie. Big action planned. He said, I'm going to break into this laboratory, and it was quite a high security. I said, you're going to break in there? Yeah. I said, what, you've got a team of people? He said, no, I'm going on my own. And I said, well, it's quite a secure place. He said, I've got all the equipment. I've bought all this climbing equipment and special cutting equipment and everything to break in there, you see. I said, don't you want other people? No, I can do it on my own. Well, all right, okay. Anyway, he said, I'll come and tell you how I got on. You know, let me spoke like that. Anyway, a couple of days later he come, and I said, how'd you get on? He said, I had problems. He said, I got on the roof, but it was more difficult to get in, and I wasn't able to make entrance. You see. I said, so what did you do then? He said, don't worry, I still damaged the place. I said, how'd you do that? I pissed through the letterbox. He pissed through the letterbox. That was all he could do. He pissed through that. Anyway, in the ALF supporters newsletter, we used to have an action, like list diary of actions, all the actions that happened. And we put that in there. We put laboratory damaged. And he pissed through the letterbox in this laboratory. That's all he could do.
Yeah, the real question though, Ronnie, did you give the guy a cigar? That's what we want to know, isn't it?
I don't know. He probably deserved a cigar for that, didn't he? At least he did something. He did some damage. But a mate of mine, it was a mate of mine in the UMSABs, and he got he was working at some insurance place or something in the middle of London, and he got sacked. It's the same thing. He got sacked in the morning. And what he did was, when his boss went out to work at lunch, he went in the boss's office, pissed all over his desk. Oh, God. And then left. Obviously, there we are. Seem to be on the subject of piss now, don't we?
So on this high note, have you got any more to come, Ronnie?
I've got one more really funny story,
right.
And that'll be the end of it, I think, because we're coming to we're overshot now, aren't we? What happened was, this was a bit later, and we had an office now in Hammersmith. I got contacted by a reporter on the Yorkshire Post, and there was a lot of actions going on in Leeds, and there was a very active ALF cell in Leeds. And this reporter said, "Listen, I want to interview the activists in Leeds. Do an interview. Can you arrange it?" And I said, "Well, leave it with me. I'll see what I can do." So I got in touch with these people, and they said, "Well, it's got to be. He can't know who we are, where we are, or anything like that." And I said, "Well, I'll sort it out." So what I did was I arranged to meet him in this lay-by on the way into Leeds. I hired this transit van, and I on the way into Leeds, I met him in this lay-by, right? I made him get in the back of the transit van, and I made him wear this Margaret Thatcher mask, but the eyes were taped up, so he couldn't see out the eyes. So he had this Margaret Thatcher mask on, see. And I'd been to the house where these people were, their house, and there was this place where you could park right outside their house, you see. So I thought, yeah, that's all right. I'll park there, take him in the house. But when I got there, somebody else was in that parking space, right? I had to park right down the road, and I had to walk him all down the road in the Margaret Thatcher mask with the eyes taped, and he was staggering all over the place. He was falling all over the place. I had to hold him. I thought, anyway, who sees this? He's going to phone up, say a bloke's been kidnapped and he's been made to wear a Margaret Thatcher mask. But anyway, he went in the house and he went upstairs to them. They come in balaclava, he took the mask off, did the interview, got in the paper and all that. And then I had to do the same all the way back to the van. In the Margaret Thatcher mask. I took him back to the lay-by, and then he, so it all worked out at the end, but it could have gone like very, very badly wrong. But I mean, there are more funny stories, but I suppose we've got to end sometime, else I'll be going on all night, won't I? So I hope
I can answer that, Ronnie. No, you won't.
Because I'm in charge. But I hope people have enjoyed this episode. And if you have, or even if you haven't enjoyed it, please give generously to Back into Daylight for these hens. You've seen, the wonderful conditions they're living in now, and they could so easily have not be alive now if.
It's a good time in Maz. We're just about to end.
He's back. Well, you'll have to watch the recording, won't you, Maz? Catch up. Watch it on catch up. You see, how they are now, and have an appreciation of how much it's all costing to for their accommodation and their medical care and everything else. So please give generously to Back into Daylight and help these hens. And also
I know before we go, I've got an announcement. People will probably know that the Animal Rights Show is having a week off because Wendy is having she's away. And so I thought, well, since we got the slot, I might as well fill it. And so I came up with this idea. I've been meaning to do this for a while. Some of my old lectures are very relevant to the animal movement, and they can teach us a lot. In fact, quite a lot of them are about social movement theory, and so I might do that. I just thought I'd see how this one goes and see if people kind of enjoy it, in the sense that this really puts, it's really about the ethical components of society and them being under threat. And so the Frankfurt School is a kind of neo-Marxist effort, and they came up with this idea of instrumental reason. It's about seeing others as instruments for your own benefit. And so I'm going to go through all that, because this actually is quite an interesting thing to go through. It kind of helps us understand a little bit about what we're up against. So that's going to be the usual Animal Rights Show slot next Monday at 6, if people would like to come along to that. So that's my advert done on that one.
That sounds, I've never heard of that before, instrumental reason.
Yes, it's a very interesting idea, actually. Yeah.
I mean, I'd have thought it'd be something to do with music, to be honest, if somebody said it to me, but obviously not.
No, it's not instrumental in that sense.
Sounds interesting, actually. I should be there, as I always am, on a Monday. Monday at 6, is it, Roger? Same as always?
No, it's 7 o'clock for you, Ronnie, and it's 6 for everybody else. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're trying to say something to me, Roger. I'll have to give one of my lectures.
It's free cigars from Ronnie for everybody who scans.
or vodka. Or vodka. Don't drink it all at once.
Yeah, what's that? The pub landlord, kind of, and a wine for the ladies. It's very gendered. That guy, that guy is very.
Yeah, I mean, he was an older bloke, so he probably got brought up in that kind of.
Yes.
Thing.
Well, Declan, we wish you well, and I know that you've got a heck of a lot of work on a day-to-day basis. So I hope it goes well, and let's hope these kind of emergency situations with that. Let's hope that they kind of clear up a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully, Roger. Yeah, hopefully, Roger. Yeah.
So if people can really follow you on Facebook, I suppose, can't they, for updates?
Yeah, Facebook is right. Yeah, and then on the website and stuff as well. So there's lots of areas, but. And thanks a million, Ronnie and Roger, for doing it.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you for rescuing the hens, because they wouldn't be around now if you hadn't done that.
I had a good quickly. With a great laugh, Ronnie, listening to you too.
Roger's cool. Yeah, I know.
I thought it was the other way around. I thought it was.
See, people are on my side, Roger. You see.
Well, I know. Well, I suppose the general always wins out.
That's it. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Bernie. That's great, and we'll no doubt see you in the chat of on Monday. Bernie will probably be along at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 for you, Ronnie. 7 for you. Right, folks.
Well, we'll come along Monday and listening to you reason about your instrument, Roger.
Yeah, I'll give you an instrumental. Yeah. What a virtue signaler I am.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, for making a donation. Hopefully, loads of other people will give money as well.
Some people got no shame, have they? Some people got no shame. Yeah. Right. So on that note, and since you're the general of people with no shame, Ronnie, I think we should say goodbye and end of an era again. So that's the end of the series. Jailhouse Vegans is no more.
It's no more. But if people want to watch the series, it's still on Roger's. Unless Roger's going to delete it all now. It's on Roger's YouTube, so you can.
What you think people are going to watch it more than once, Ronnie? Come on.
Well, there are masochists. Some people are masochists, aren't they? They like to suffer and torture themselves. You never know. So it might, but it's all on there. If you missed any previous episodes, just go on, search for Jailhouse Vegans on Roger's YouTube, and they're all on there.
They are, and the adverts even. So
and there's quite a few different funny episodes on there.
There's Linda being very kind, so thanks for that. Linda. We might come back with something like Tales from the Activist Past or something, because there are some. Well, I mean, you've got loads of stories outside of prison, haven't you, Ronnie? So
I've got quite a lot more. Yeah. I don't know if there's any more about knickers. I think I've told the knickers one.
Oh, good. Yeah. I think I'm going to write you. If we do this new series, I'm going to write you a contract about the things that you can't say. I think.
Yeah, pretty much everything. You can't open your mouth. You just got to sit there. That's it. But yes, we could do something else. We'll have to have a think and see what we can do, and carry on raising money for sanctuaries.
You could tell us more about your days in a punk band. You're the only punk musician who played triangle, weren't you, Ronnie?
I couldn't even play triangle, Roger.
No.
I used to just sing because that was all I could do. But you could never hear me. They were so loud that you couldn't hear me. We used to give out song sheets to people with the words, because the words were good, they're all about ALF and stuff like that. And Roger must control Ronnie.
It won't be easy. It won't be easy. I'll tell you that.
An electric shock thing, won't it, to control me? It's like watching the two. It's like watching the two Rinnies.
The two ninnies. I think that's supposed to be.
Oh, the two ninnies.
Yeah, it's
goodbye from him. Goodbye from him.
And goodbye from me.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Mm.